Okay, so hello, Todd. First of all, how are you doing?
Good, Mike. What are you up to?
I am I'm waiting for football tonight, and I'm excited to talk to you.
Oh, well, Mike, I'm excited to talk to you, and I'm gonna pay attention. But I'm working
Okay,
as we're because I got to sign these signing plates for this
that's right.
Kickstarter
Yep,
right now. So, got the whole table all filled up here.
I
So
recognize
some of
that.
the people listening may get their plates signed as we're speaking.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah,
Well, then they get to see them, being signed in action. So
in
that's
action.
cool.
There
How
you
many
go.
have you signed so far? I know the Kickstarter's
I
been very
think I think I think we've probably done maybe about 1,100,
successful.
but I've got a pile of about close to 10,000 or something like
Wow,
that. So
wow.
I'll be here for a few days.
Yeah, sounds like it. All right, well, let's talk about the Kickstarter then. So, I mean, already it started off with the fastest toy campaign ever to reach $1 million. That's pretty amazing. Now, your previous toy campaign was obviously a huge success. So, I mean, this isn't entirely surprising, but it's also kind of like you never know for sure with Kickstarter stuff. So, what kind of how did it take you by surprise? Were you expecting it? Kind of what was your reaction to breaking another record? You seem to be pretty good at that.
I don't know that was really a goal. I mean, I to your point, I think we knew we were going to get out of the gate fast. We had data.
Hmm.
The first one, was just a hair under $3.5 million. So even if you got half that, right? I mean, again, never assume that you're going to hit a home run every single time. So if you bring your expectations down, even if you get half that, you go, that's still a big campaign. As a matter of fact, half that still, it would be the second biggest in the toy category ever, which
Right.
we've already said we're already there. We've got the biggest one with the OG spawn that we did 4 years ago. And now we're at number two. So we're going to have the number one and number two. I don't think it ends up uh, close to the original one, but again, I didn't create the same number of options and the
Right.
same number of possibilities, and I didn't. The menu wasn't nearly as big for people to choose from.
Right.
I intentionally was trying to make it simple for not only the consumer but for people who are going to do the shipping and handling, and more importantly, the factory.
Yeah.
Right. So
Right.
it became a bit of a nightmare last time with all the permutations, and so I didn't want to put that pain on the factory again.
Sure.
And in all honesty, it slowed down sort of them packing it out and shipping. And one of the goals that I want to have, the record I really want to break is can I make a fully functional toy in the toy category? I mean, actually manufacture something in another country and get it out faster than anybody's done in that category ever. And
Yeah.
I'm hoping the answer is yes. That's the record. That speed of delivery.
Right. Right. Which, I mean, that's a lofty goal, right? I mean, I've backed a million Kickstarters and I've run Kickstarters myself, so I know how hard that is. Like, I just do comic books, and it's hard to get those out on time. So what, kind of what led you to do that, and sort of what was your plan to sort of be able to turn them around so quickly? Because that is something I think Kickstarter, backers really value.
Well, yes. The downside, if there's any, if there's any downside, it's that you have to make all your decisions in advance, and you can't deviate from your decisions.
Right.
Right. So, so now let's say we got a handful of people that saying, "Man, we wish there was a wire cape involved." Right. I can't now like go, "Oh, hey, factory, let's figure this piece out," because it will slow down the entire model. Right. Or they go, "Man, I wish you gave this weapon," right? And now I got to cut a new steel, right? And that would slow it down by months and months. Right. So you have to make all your decisions on what it is that you're going to make, and for the figure, and then for any accessories and your packaging and all those other things, and then the only unknown is whether you're going to include all that in the final product. Right. So we're ready to bake them all. The question is, will they all be included?
Right.
So that's to be determined by the time we get to the end of it. And then the factory is then prepared to make all of it. I've got them prepared. Assume everything's going to get included, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I need to have them set. and all I'm going to do is tell you to pull stuff out, right? So you're going to go backward, but you got to be ready to go now with everything, and we can't start trying to play catch up with it. I mean, the catch up is literally these signing plates that I'm doing now. They can't do a 3-pack until they've got a signed plate that they can put into one of the figures so that it matches what it is that people have pledged to, right?
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
I have to get these into their hands ASAP. So.
Yep. So I'm curious, McFarlane Toys, I remember McFarlane Toys launched. I actually owned a comic store at the time, and we sold a lot of the earliest toys in the store, and it's been around, 30 years or so now. And I feel like I see McFarlane Toys more than ever. You guys have branched out into so many things. What is the sort of appeal or the strategy behind using Kickstarter for these very specific toys that you're doing? Can you tell us a little bit about kind of what went into that?
Well, we've only done 2, right? So one was there was a pandemic and people were at home, and I'd been curious about, let's try it. And then the other one is I knew that what I wanted to do with this particular figure, the medieval spawn, to try and do the detail and to give the level of add-ons that if I tried to give it to a retailer, it would be $100.
Right.
I just know how it works, right? It would be minimum 80, but 100, closer to $100. Especially with the size of the package, and then a unique comic book comes in. And again, I remember on the first one I was talking to 2 audiences, and I go, I think depending on who you are, whether you're a comic fan or a toy fan, you need to think about it differently. If you're a toy fan, you should be going, man, I'm getting a free $25 comic book. Right. Because we just came back from San Diego. We sell exclusive comics between $25 and $30. Right. So if that's true, then just subtract $25, $30 from whatever price you're paying, because you could take that comic book and put it up separately and probably get that out on the open market.
Sure.
Or if you're a comic book fan, then you go, man, I get my $30 exclusive comic book, and they're going to throw in an action figure for $28, $29. And it comes in a box and it comes all this other stuff. That's cheaper than some of the stuff at Walmart.
Yeah.
Right now. So it depends what kind of game you want to play, because I don't think people are going to realize until they sort of get it and open it all up how much stuff is included in that box.
Right. Yeah, that's very cool. That makes sense. I noticed that, you talked about, how much stuff goes with the figure. And I know that you've been unlocking sort of these bonus accessories, as you get to hitting the stretch goals and stuff like that.
No, I don't know. I don't, this is the piece that I can't seem to get through. There is no stretch goals and there are no unlocks.
Okay.
It's Todd on a whim saying, oh man, we should give that away today.
I got you. Okay.
I know that we did a couple, when we hit 1 million, whatever. And so people think okay, so now just to prove the point, I've been giving away stuff on funky odd number, whatever the number is today. It has nothing to do with any kind of roundish number. It's just, I want to give you, because I have a bag of stuff that I want to give away to all of you. And I just want to every now and then go, hey, today is this day. We're going to give away this today. Cool, right. Because I haven't given it to you, right? Look, we haven't given away the giant axe yet, right? But I'll do it. I'll do it here pretty soon, right? Okay. So it's just too cool. We can't not have it end without that being in there.
That is really cool.
And again, the giant axe is as tall as him, right? So, boom.
That's awesome.
But so anyways, people use those terms, and I see it in the comments, and I saw it a lot when we did the first one 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's really weird that there was no, it's not how it works, Todd. You
right.
Make us give you more money, and then you give us that thing. And it's weird that I'm like, no, I don't want your money. I want to give it to you now. Right. And they're like, no. It's I don't know. People give me free stuff. I take it. Right.
Yeah.
It's a weird conversation. They're like, that's not how it works.
Right.
But anyways, I keep trying to tell people there's only one rule, that there's no rule. Right. There's a little bit of Fight Club right now. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like whatever you're used to on Kickstarter, apply that, I guess, to everything else. I'm not bound to those rules because most people, I'm assuming 98% of people do Kickstarters, come in and they need the funding. I don't. We've been making toys for 30 years. I just need to deliver a toy at a fair price, because if I took that toy on the open market, like I said, and I gave it to my retailer, it'd be $100. Right. And I've seen toys from Japan that are $80 to $120. And I go, I can do that for half price. I mean, what are you talking about? I can do it for half price. So I can give everything. I can give you a $25 comic, and I can give you a fancy big box, and I give you a slip sleeve, and I can give you a figure, and I give you possibly 15, 20 extra pieces on, and I can get it all in there for half the price that they'll give you one figure and a couple of accessories. So
that's pretty amazing. I think you're right, though. It is not what people are used to with Kickstarter, right? I mean, I think there are sort of these unwritten rules, if you will, of Kickstarter that people have in their minds. And so when somebody like you comes along and does it completely differently, I think people don't know how to respond, or they don't quite.
No, they don't. I'm messing. I understand it. They're like, what are stretch goals? There are no stretch goals. How many times I've actually typed that answer so far? But again, every new person that comes along that didn't read the answer from 2 days ago, they ask the same question. But luckily, if you say it enough, then the audience themselves are pretty good about repeating the information to the newbies coming along. And I mean, again, look at everybody that was excited. We're going to get there at the beginning, and they were going to start funding at the beginning, and then you've got people sort of trickling in and out in the middle. But then your next big rush is really that last 24 hours, because those are the people that come in. Maybe even people listening to yours that will go, okay, well, when does it end? All right, I'll go on the last day, see what is actually included in totality. And then make my decision at that point, right? Because then that's the last day is when you're going to be the most educated from a consumer point of view, because you'll go, I have all the answers, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. It's McFarlane Toys, like you said, have been around 30 years. And like I said, I've seen so many in recent past year or two. I feel like you guys are everywhere. How do you decide what the next thing you want to tackle is, or like which property you want to take on, or which license you want to get? Is there like a method to the madness, or is it just kind of like whatever looks cool?
No, there's a bit of a beggars and choosers.
Okay.
Right? You make your list of things you'd like to do, you then go see whether it's available. And then if it is available, then sometimes you're in competition against other companies that also see it. Right. I mean, I'm not the only one that looks at stuff and goes, man, that might be popular. Yeah. And then sometimes you win those contracts and sometimes you don't. And so for us, we're constantly looking. I mean, it's always nice to have one or two big brands going that, can be sort of the bulk of your business while you're trying to find your next home run, if you will.
Yeah.
Right? So, and we've been fortunate for the most part over the 30 years to kind of his one's ebbing down, that we pick up another one that's a surprise, and some are surprise hits, and you're going, wow, let's ride this wave as long as we can. And so there's no science. I've always said that the conversation of like who we pick and what characters we pick, and when we're doing sports, who we were making on sports, is no different than when people are sitting at a convention or a bar or a dinner and they're having the exact same conversations, right? I'm not any smarter than and have any more insight than anybody else, right? So it's my guess is that if I was to pick a brand and said, hey, let's make the top 10 figures of that brand, your list and my list of the 10, you and I would probably be consistent with 8 of them.
Right.
And there'd only be sort of the ones down at the bottom that you and I would differ, but for sure the top 5, of course, we're gonna make those, right?
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, you haven't made my life any easier. I'll tell you that. I have to be a little limited on the toys that I buy. I have very little space in my house. And then, you did the Ted Lasso figure, and that was a must-have. And now you got the Rocky figures coming out, and those are must-haves because these are some of my favorite things. So you're making my wife not as happy with me as she could be, but it's all right.
Yeah, darn it. This is why you need to have your secret man cave.
I'm trying.
About. And then when you say you're going bowling that night, you go into your man cave just to admire all the stuff you got.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Right now, it's my office just gets more and more crowded. It's just
what my wife affectionately calls, because I've got plenty of it, what she affectionately calls my crap.
Yeah, right. But it's my most important crap.
Look at my wife. She loves me dearly.
Right.
We've been together for a long time. But she goes, I have to die before you. The reason is because she goes, I don't want to clean up your mess. I don't want to clean up this crap.
Yeah.
In fact, I'll probably just put it all in the middle of the street and just take a blowtorch or tell people to just come and get it. They got 24 hours, then I blowtorch it.
Right.
But she goes, if you think I'm going to organize it, I'm going to sell it, I'm going to maximize it on eBay. Mm-hmm. If you've got something coming, shoot, man, it's gone. So that can't happen to a bunch of stuff I got. So sadly, she is going to have to go first. So,
well, as long as you guys have discussed it, I think that's really okay. You know what I mean? As long as the expectations are...
I thought for the longest time it would be Thelma and Louise. We would go out together, but I guess then that way nobody blowtorches it at that point. I guess I leave it to my kids. Yeah. And they'll figure it out.
They'll figure it out. Exactly. That's kind of my plan at the same time, because I think I'm in the exact same boat as you. So I'm curious, and I don't know if, obviously how far in advance you have to plan these things, but as I recall, and keep me honest here, the original McFarlane Toys lineup was Spawn, Medieval Spawn, and Violator. Is that correct? The first three that came out like way back in the 90s?
No, it was, I got one right here.
More than that. Okay, I remember that one.
Right. So there's Tremor and Clown and Overkill.
Okay. All right. So now it's coming back to me. All right, cool. So is this, you've obviously done Spawn and Medieval Spawn. Is the goal to recreate all of the original figures? Is it kind of a case by case basis? You know what?
When I did the first one, I thought the answer would be yes, that's a way to go. But I don't know. I mean, I'm going to have to think about it, because I think that there's now been characters in the last 30 years that people might want more, right? So do I think that people would be more excited about if I did a gunslinger with a bunch of cool stuff that came with them more than Tremor? Right? The answer has to be yes.
Yeah.
Right? So then you're deviating from that, and now you're just remastering characters that already exist and or figures that have already existed, right? So I think that the key in any sort of creative decision, if you want to have at least a decent level of success on the business side, so you can do more art and more creating, which should be the goal, which has always been my goal, right? I never set out to be rich and famous. I set out to want to do art the way I see fit, and the way to do that is you have to have a certain amount of success for people to let you continue to do that, and success comes with those other two pieces, right? The money comes from success, and a little bit of, fame and fortune comes from that. Right. So then it affords me to be able to then do it. And I've been doing art, quote unquote, for 40 years now. Right? I found just enough success and enough people to support it that I continue to do it day after day, and now decade after decade. So my instincts, and again, I'll tap into everybody, that I have around the office and my team of, do we think, let's take a vote. Do we think it's Tremor, or do we think it's Gunslinger? And it may be neither one of them. Sure. But I'm just saying it will be those kinds of conversations. Yeah. And then why? And then we ask the why do we think that's true? And then once we settle on the next one, then you go, okay, what should be included that would make it worthwhile? Right. I mean, to me, Medieval Spawn was easy because, like they just can come with so many, an arsenal of I mean, like I said, literally a bag of stuff, right? Yeah. I mean, a bag of stuff. Like, sure, they it's just thing after thing after thing, right? Chess pieces, whatever.
Yeah.
So, right.
Yeah.
Like, shoot, let's go.
Absolutely. So the the Spawn universe, right, which has been expanding over the last few years incredibly.
Yeah, from the comic on the comic books now we're talking about.
Yeah, and we'll sort of, and in general, I mean, it sort of ties in with these too. Is like, what do you chalk up the ongoing love for the character? What do you sort of chalk that up to? Because obviously the toys, I mean, you're breaking records with the toys, the comics, you broke the 301 record, and then just you've added different books to the to the publishing. So what do you think is behind the longevity of the Spawn universe, the Spawn character?
At this point, there's a lot of pieces in the recipe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we could go back to all of them, because you have to get out of the gate. You have to have a quality product. You have to have something that people are willing to come to, whatever. But at some point, if you do something and it survives for 20, 30, 40 years in the marketplace, mm-hmm. chances are it's going to keep surviving.
Yeah.
Right. So, not too many things are out in the marketplace for 50 years and then go, no, not anymore. So right. I think that Spawn, and because I've lived it, which is interesting. To me, the big heroes, the A+ heroes, were the ones that to me had been around the longest, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. And so, when I was younger, Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, Captain America, I knew, right? Wonder Woman, Flash, right? These characters that I just intuitively knew, even though I might not have even been a collector at that point.
Right.
The names that my mom would know.
Yeah.
Right. The Hulk, right? She would know them. So, but now, Spawn first came out in 1992. We're now, 32 plus years into it, which means there's literally an entire generation of people globally mm-hmm. who have lived on the planet, and that character has existed. Doesn't mean they know about it. Doesn't mean they care about it. Doesn't mean they consume it. Right. And doesn't mean they even know who the hell I am. None of that. It means they've lived on a planet in which that brand has been there every day of their life. And at some point, you start to just, through attrition, mm-hmm. start to go, oh yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
Again, how does my mom know about the Hulk? Or she didn't watch the TV show and buy the comic book. She just somehow got into her ear, right? Mm-hmm. Look, I know there's this family called the Kardashians, and I don't consume any of their stuff or news or anything, and yet I have information in my head about them. Mm-hmm. So that's a good thing, though. If you're marketing, you got a brand. That's good that people just know things without knowing why they know it. So I think now, besides there's other things we could talk about, but that he's been around for 30 years is a big piece of it.
Sure.
Piece of it. So I'm here to tell anybody, if you want to do a comic book and you're willing to put your head down and do it for 30 years, I guarantee it, in 30 years from now, that brand will have some value, in some cases a lot of value, because it's 30 years old.
Right. I like that a lot. All right. So I know I'm running out of time, but I just wanted to ask if there's anything else about the Kickstarter that you want people to know, or anything that you want to just kind of say to get people excited about it.
Well, I think we got a lot of cool stuff, right? They're cool, right? Up close, shoot, it's cool, right? Look at it. Lots of detail. There's lots of moving parts, magnet stuff, whatever. But I think that the best I can do is say, go to the Kickstarter page, mm-hmm. take a look at it. If you want to procrastinate a little bit, go look at it on the last day, because then you will know everything that's been added between now and then. Mm-hmm. And all the information will be there of what you get, what you don't get, when it's going to ship. Again, we're going to do the speed shipping. Get all that, and you're going to see the pricing, and then you get to make an educated decision on whether it's something that makes sense for you personally.
Right.
You and I can talk about it, but you know, it's just way easier for people to just go look, sort of educate themselves, and then go, hey, that's not bad, or not for me, right? Either one of those is a valid choice once you've gotten the information, because now you know what you're walking away from or supporting.
Right.
Because there's lots of pictures and lots of information and you can ask comments or questions if you're curious. I try to make sure that I get the pertinent stuff out there. We got the FAQs out there. So I don't know. I do some goofy videos. I just did one today.
Cool.
Saying I'm signing these plates. Right, here we go. Let's go. The plates are coming. So that's it. Like go take a look, and if I'm lucky, then there might be something there that's interesting, and I'll be fortunate enough to get your support.
That sounds good. Awesome. Well, thank you, Todd, for taking the time to talk to me. Congrats on the success already of the campaign. I'm sure it's going to finish even more gangbusters, but it's always a pleasure to talk to you. So thank you very much.
All right. You be good, Mike.
All right. You too. Thanks, Todd.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.